Often people go freelance for the promise of freedom and then very quickly give all of that freedom away. So avoid doing that by following these 3 key tips on how to establish and maintain your freelance freedom. So hi there, delighted to have you with us as always. This is First Year Freelancing. We help new freelancers get started. You're awesome at your skill. We help with the rest you need to succeed from marketing, sales and client relations. So let's get into it. So the first point in establishing and maintaining your freelance freedom is setting boundaries with your clients. This is probably the biggest one that people fall foul of early on, and that is that they start to over-service their clients. They're available 24/7, they're emailing back and forth, maybe they're on a Slack channel or a Teams chat, and they're just constantly available. The stress and strain that comes with that is one of the key reasons people give up that freedom that they want to go freelance for in the first place. The main thing is that it's completely unnecessary. 9 times out of 10, it does not help with getting the client their end result. And that's why you have to have a detailed discovery process with the client. Really understand what is it they want, because when you know that, you can use that as a rationale behind your future communications and setting those boundaries with clients. So for example, client wants X result. Okay, now the way to achieve that is by delivering the work. It's not necessarily going back and forth on communication. You may need to have strategy calls, you may need to do reporting calls, you may need to do further discovery calls throughout the process, but they are kind of few and far between. They're very focused and specific. It's not ad hoc comms back and forth. So when you set those boundaries as a freelancer, and there's 2 ways of doing this. First of all, it's having like a service level agreement, or just establishing your process when you speak to a new prospect, saying this is how I work. I respond within 24 hours, or perhaps I do monthly calls. I don't do weekly calls, anything like that. But so you can establish them in that sense. But the key part, much more important part in my view, is actually how you then deliver on that. Because I've seen people who have detailed contracts and service level agreements of comms time, but then they slip, and then the new norm replaces what was actually in the agreement. So it's how you actually behave. Now, if you have a good client, they understand what you're trying to do, you understand what they want to achieve as their goal, they're not going to mind about that. If you don't reply for 2 or 3 days, but that's because the process you have, I'm not saying that's optimum, by the way. It may be that you reply in 24 hours. It depends on the project. But if you need to get your head down as a developer, for instance, for 2 or 3 days coding, it's not going to be optimal to be replying to comms every 5 minutes. So if you establish that and stick to it, that is a key part of your freelance freedom, because then you can work whenever you want. And time is super valuable, as we know, but as a freelancer, that is one of the benefits you get over employed. You don't have to work from 9 to 5. You can work the hours that suit you. If it's a beautiful day in the middle of the week and you just feel like you've not really got your head in the game, you can take that day off and match that up on a Saturday. You can't do that as employed. So one of the key tenets of freelance freedom is time, and by setting boundaries on client communications, that's how you can establish it. So the second one is working with good fit clients. Again, might sound obvious. However, often new freelancers will just take on any project, and there is some value in that in terms of getting some practice, learning the ropes, even going through some mistakes with bad fit clients, so you know what to avoid in future. However, working with good fit clients is absolutely key. That's the most important thing. So what you need to do to establish that is identify who is a good fit client for you. And again, you may have to go through some experiences to understand that, but you can certainly start out. It's better off starting out with some idea, some avatar of the type of ideal client you want to work with, and focus on that. Now, a good fit client, in my view, in terms of this freelance freedom video, is about having somebody who just lets you get on with what you do best. They trust you, they know they've brought you in to deliver a specific job, and they let you get on with it. They give you the autonomy. Now, anyone who doesn't do that, you're basically giving up that key freedom I mentioned earlier around time. So having the right type of client will allow and establish you to get into this process of working when you want and delivering the end goal without being chased up by the client. So that's a key part of it. Identify who your good fit clients are going to be, target them, work with them, and learn as you go along. Every single client relationship, that was a great client to work with. This one less so. Maybe this would have been a good client, but I didn't establish my boundaries and set them strong enough. So you're picking all these little bits of tips and advice as you go to make sure you can keep honing that ideal fit client you work with. And the final thing is to continuously market yourself, because that gives you the opportunity to do what I've just mentioned. Identify good fit clients, work with them. The more leads, prospects you have, the more picky you can be, in essence, of the type of clients you want to work with that allow you the freedoms you want as a freelancer, to work with who you want, to work when you want, to charge higher rates so you can have higher income, which allows more freedom in different ways. So Again, that all comes back to ideal client, but the best way of doing that is to market yourself so you have more opportunities to be specific about who you want to work with. So to wrap this up, I'm going to link to my marketing playlist to touch on my final point there about continuous marketing. It has some tips, ideas, ways you can market yourself as a freelancer to get those high level of leads coming in. As always, I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you again on the next one.